You're listening to the Tony Conley Morning Show on more compelling talk radio, 1320 WILS, 1320 WILS.com. Is the IRS using Google Maps to spy on taxpayers? Joe Mastriano is a certified public accountant who's an IRS audit expert. He's also an expert for Fox News Radio. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Joe, I know you like to work on this stuff. As a matter of fact, you've got an interesting moniker. Tell us about it.
I'm the killer IRS CPA. That's my official legal trademark.
A lot of folks are really paranoid of the IRS. They seem to wield so much power and have very little oversight. Tell us about those fears. Should we feel that way?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. Sometimes I am also, because they don't always follow the rules themselves. And right now they've been going after people for years, hiring private investigators, knocking on neighbors' doors, looking through windows, doing Google searches, maps, and any searches, Facebook. If you don't file your tax return or they feel you have phony deductions, they consider it a criminal act. And a lot of times they'll send criminal investigations after people, and you don't even know they're on the trail. So, yeah, if you're not filing and paying your taxes, you need to be scared.
Now, if we're filing our taxes and doing the right thing, we have nothing to worry about, right?
Right, but the problem is most people think they're doing the right thing and they're not.
Where are we making mistakes, Joe?
Okay, well, people need to go to a professionally licensed law firm or CPA firm, a company licensed by the state. People are still selecting tax preparers based on who can get them the biggest refund. And there's so many changes in the rules that require proper documentation that you need to be off their radar. You send a return in, and they look at it, and they can't possibly think how a person could live like that and have enough money. They're going to audit you. So I have a 4-part program to stay off their radar, and anyone that's followed it has not been audited. And that's what I highly recommend people do.
Now, so the IRS has folks that are using Google Maps to spy on taxpayers. How's that work?
Well, if they want to know if you have property, or in the case of that 501c3 election, they wanted to see if there were public access, so they can do public business. They know what's going on. People leave boats and expensive cars in the driveway and plead poverty on their tax returns.
All right, Joe, tell us about your 4-point plan.
Okay, number one, you file an extension. No more rushing before April 15th just to get your refund, unless you're that hungry that you want to be audited. So you file an extension. The extension automatically takes you to October 15th. File a week before the 15th, because that's when most of the returns by far have been selected for audit. By also waiting that time, by the end of August, the IRS has on file all the W-2s, 1099s, K-1s, they call it a wage and income transcript, and you have to match that on your return. Because if people report numbers to them, you can't say, oh, well, I'll fix it later. They'll yank your return for audit. So that's the third thing. You've got to match it to the documents the IRS has on file. If some of them are wrong, then you can explain on the return that they're wrong and why and give evidence. The fourth thing is anything other than the most simplest situation, you need to footnote, and that's where the expert comes in. You know, people who just read instructions and fill out forms don't have the ability to do this. You've got to make statements that, people, especially Schedule C's, people's self-employed businesses, they're getting targeted. And the IRS is disallowing people's mileage deductions. I have contractors that they disallow their labor and materials. It's crazy. It's like a witch hunt. And what they have to do what we do is footnote the return. Taxpayer has the documents to prove this. Taxpayer is knows the code and the regulations, and we stand by ready to show it. We can prove that it was a business purpose and not personal, substance over form. There's things in the code such as business versus personal, substance over form, ordinary versus necessary, and these are the concepts that have to be explained on the return, because they're just disallowing people's receipts and invoices left and right now.
Joe, does filing an extension set off an IRS red flag?
Oh, absolutely not. Like I said, anybody who has followed that four-part program I just outlined, we don't know one person who's been audited.
Okay, and then filing closer to the 15th limits your chance for being audited because they have so many returns they're dealing with.
Correct. That's the 15th of October, not the 15th of April.
Okay. And, Joe, if people want more information about this, where can they go?
They can go to my website at taxproblem.org or Google Killer IRS, and I have a free 74-page download that explains these things and also explains how to make sure the IRS can't touch you if you owe them money. There's too many people that are sending payments to the IRS thinking everything's okay, and all of a sudden they get a wage levy or a bank levy and their checks bounce because they're not getting proper installment agreements and they're not being told what they have to do to make sure they don't break the agreement. These are unwritten rules. You don't find them in their documents. And people who call up on their own or hire people that don't have the experience are not told this. And, we get calls, we get calls daily, people complaining that they don't understand why the IRS has levied their bank account. And all we have to do is go over our 5 things about what they have to do to get the agreement and keep the agreement, and we always find that something's out of place.
We've been talking with
It's
Joe.
really not complicated.
Okay, we've been talking with Joe Mastriano, who's a certified public accountant and a Fox News radio expert. Sir, thanks so much for your time, and Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas, and I'm glad to be here, and I have a lot more to tell people. So invite me back.
You're listening to the Tony Conley Morning Show on 1320 WILS, 1320WILS.com.